Imagine the early 1970s. Martial arts films were popular across Asia, but few people outside the region had experienced the intensity, philosophy, and raw athleticism that defined the genre. Then one man began changing everything. His name was Bruce Lee, and in 1972 he created a film that would not only redefine martial arts cinema but also showcase his vision as a filmmaker for the very first time. That film was The Way of the Dragon, known in the United States as Return of the Dragon. It was more than just another kung fu movie. It was the only film Bruce Lee fully directed during his lifetime, a project where he served as writer, director, producer, and star. By the time this film entered production, Bruce Lee was already a sensation. His previous movies, The Big Boss and Fist of Fury, had shattered box office records across Asia and turned him into a cultural phenomenon. Yet despite their success, Lee felt limited by the system he was working in. He wanted greater creative control. He wanted to shape the story, design the fights, explore his philosophy of martial arts, and present a more personal vision on screen. To achieve that, Lee partnered with producer Raymond Chow, the founder of the Hong Kong studio Golden Harvest. Together, they launched a new production company called Concord Production Inc. Their first project would be The Way of the Dragon. Bruce Lee would write the script, direct the movie, produce it, perform the action choreography, and even contribute percussion to the film's soundtrack. For Lee, this was not simply another acting role. It was the chance to prove he could shape cinema itself. The story begins far from Hong Kong. Instead of setting the film in China, Bruce Lee chose the historic city of Rome as the primary location. This decision immediately gave the movie a global atmosphere. The narrative focuses on a small Chinese restaurant in Rome run by Chen Qinghua and her uncle Wang. Chen, portrayed by Nora Miao, is struggling to keep the restaurant open as a powerful local crime boss attempts to force them out so he can take the property. When Chen refuses to sell, the mob boss begins sending gangs of thugs to intimidate the staff and drive away customers. The harassment grows increasingly aggressive, and the restaurant faces financial ruin. Desperate for help, Chen contacts relatives in Hong Kong, hoping someone will come to defend the business. The person who arrives is Tang Lung, played by Bruce Lee. But Tang Lung is not introduced as an immediate hero. When he first arrives in Rome, he appears awkward, confused by the language and customs of the city. He struggles to navigate everyday situations and often seems almost naive. At first glance, he looks more like a traveler lost in a foreign land than a martial arts master. The restaurant staff quickly become skeptical. Even Chen herself begins to doubt whether the help she requested will actually make any difference. But Tang calmly assures them he is capable. Within the restaurant, the staff members debate which fighting style is best. One of them, Quen, played by Chin Ti, strongly believes in kung fu and disapproves of coworkers learning karate. Instead of reinforcing the rivalry between martial arts styles, Tang Lung offers a different perspective. He encourages everyone to remain open-minded and use whatever techniques prove effective. This idea reflects Bruce Lee's real-life philosophy about martial arts, that no single system holds all the answers, and true skill comes from adapting and learning from multiple disciplines. Before long, the gangsters return to the restaurant to continue their intimidation. During one confrontation, Tang happens to be in the bathroom, causing the staff to assume he is useless in a fight. But when the gang returns again and begins attacking the workers directly, Tang Lung finally steps in. What follows is the first major turning point of the film. In a matter of seconds, Tang defeats the gangsters with extraordinary speed and precision. The restaurant staff watch in disbelief as the quiet visitor they doubted reveals himself to be a formidable martial artist. After witnessing his abilities, they ask Tang to train them so they can defend themselves in the future. The mob boss, however, refuses to accept defeat. His lieutenant Ho, played by Wei Pingoyu, returns with armed men and takes the restaurant staff hostage. He gives Tang a plane ticket back to Hong Kong and warns him to leave the country immediately. But Tang refuses to abandon the people he promised to protect. When the gangsters attempt to escort him away, Tang Lung fights back using nunchaku, a traditional weapon that Bruce Lee would soon make famous around the world. His mastery of the weapon stunned audiences at the time and played a major role in turning the nunchaku into one of the most recognizable symbols of martial arts cinema. With the help of the restaurant staff, Tang defeats the attackers and forces them to retreat once again. The workers celebrate their victory, but the crime boss now views Tang Lung as a serious threat. He issues an ultimatum. Tang must leave before the Chinese New Year, or he will be killed. The conflict escalates even further when an assassin attempts to eliminate Tang from a nearby rooftop using a sniper rifle. Surrounded by the noise of fireworks exploding in the streets, Tang narrowly survives the attack. Using clever tactics, he tricks the sniper into wasting his ammunition and then defeats him. When Tang returns home afterward, he discovers that Chun has disappeared. Believing she has been kidnapped by the gang, he storms the crime boss's headquarters with several members of the restaurant staff. A fierce battle erupts, and Tang defeats numerous gangsters before delivering a final warning to the boss. Leave the restaurant alone. But the crime boss now decides to escalate the situation to a new level. Instead of relying on ordinary criminals, he hires professional martial artists from around the world. 2 masters, one Japanese and one European, are brought in to challenge Tang Lung. Meanwhile, the boss secretly arranges a confrontation with an even more dangerous opponent, a powerful American fighter named Colt. Colt is played by Chuck Norris, who was making his film debut in this role. At the time, Norris was already a respected karate champion, and his real martial arts skill gave the upcoming fight scene a level of authenticity rarely seen in movies. Before the final confrontation can occur, another shocking twist unfolds. Uncle Wong, portrayed by Huang Chung-ichisayan, betrays the restaurant staff. Secretly hoping to sell the restaurant and become wealthy, he participates in an ambush arranged by the gangsters and fatally stabs 2 of the workers. Meanwhile, Tang Lung is lured away from the group and directed toward one of the most iconic locations in the world, the ancient Colosseum. Inside the massive Roman arena, Tang Lung finally faces Colt. The fight begins slowly. The 2 fighters circle each other in silence, studying every movement. Unlike most action scenes of the era, Bruce Lee chose to film the duel in long takes so the audience could clearly see both fighters' bodies and techniques. The result is a sequence that feels almost like a real martial arts contest rather than a staged movie fight. At first, Colt's powerful karate style appears overwhelming. His strikes are precise and disciplined, forcing Tang Lung to adapt. Gradually, Tang begins changing his rhythm, becoming more flexible and unpredictable. Throughout the fight, he studies Colt's movements, learning how to counter them. During the battle, Tang Lung demonstrates a technique that would later become widely known as the oblique kick, a low strike targeting the opponent's leg to disrupt balance and mobility. Decades later, the same technique would be used by mixed martial arts fighters such as John Jones, who has cited Bruce Lee as one of his inspirations. After an intense struggle lasting nearly 10 minutes, Tang Lung finally defeats Colt. However, the moment is not treated as a triumphant victory. Instead, Tang respectfully covers Colt's body with his GI, showing respect for a worthy opponent. This duel is widely considered one of the greatest fight scenes ever filmed. After leaving the Colosseum, Tang pursues Ho back to the ambush site. The crime boss arrives and eliminates both Ho and the traitorous Uncle Wong with gunfire, attempting to erase all evidence of his crimes. But Chun arrives with the police, and the boss is arrested before he can kill Tang. With the conflict finally resolved, Tang prepares to return to Hong Kong. As he departs, Quan explains to Chun that Tang Lung is a lone warrior, someone who will always continue his journey rather than settling down in one place. Behind the scenes, the success of The Way of the Dragon was astonishing. The film had an extremely small budget of only $130,000. Yet even before its release, the entire budget had already been recovered through pre-sales in Taiwan. When the film premiered in Hong Kong in December 1972, it became an immediate sensation. It earned more than 5.3 million Hong Kong dollars at the local box office, breaking records previously set by Bruce Lee's own earlier films. It became the highest-grossing Hong Kong film of the year and remained the biggest local hit until Lee's next movie, Enter the Dragon. When the film later reached North America in 1974, audiences reacted with extraordinary enthusiasm. In New York City alone, it earned over $1 million in its first 5 days. In Chicago's Oriental Theater, thousands of tickets sold within hours of release, creating long lines outside the cinema. In several theaters located in predominantly black neighborhoods, audiences reportedly cheered during the fight scenes as if they were watching a live sporting event, especially during the climactic duel between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. The film continued to perform strongly across Europe and Asia. In France, it sold more than 4 million tickets. In Spain, more than 2 million people watched the film. In Germany, it reached approximately 1.5 million viewers. In Japan, it ranked among the country's biggest box office successes of the year, and years later it also became a commercial hit in India. By the time all theatrical runs and re-releases were counted, The Way of the Dragon had earned an estimated $130 million worldwide, nearly 1,000 times its original production budget. Critical reception evolved over time as well. Today, the film holds strong approval ratings from critics, and many reviewers praise its unusual blend of comedy and martial arts action. Some commentators have even compared the comedic moments to the style of silent film legend Charlie Chaplin. At the 11th Golden Horse Awards, the film was recognized as a runner-up for Best Feature Film and received praise for its editing. Decades later, it was also included in the list of the 100 Best Films of World Cinema published by Empire magazine. After Bruce Lee's death in 1973, the film's legacy grew even larger. In 1978, an exploitation sequel titled Way of the Dragon 2 was released starring Bruce Lee and Bolo Young, attempting to capitalize on Lee's enormous popularity. But the original film remains unique, because The Way of the Dragon was not just another martial arts movie. It was Bruce Lee demonstrating that action cinema could be philosophical, humorous, emotional, and visually powerful at the same time. It showed the world that martial arts could tell stories about culture, honor, and personal growth. And more than 50 years later, the echoes of that vision still shape martial arts films, action choreography, and even modern combat sports.